The Hamptons' engagement party is full of silk dresses and fake smiles. Suddenly, a jar of liquid silver ink splashes right across Gabrielle's face. Olivia Sinclair does this cruel thing in front of hundreds of guests. She is mad because she feels insecure next to the talented Maid. Gabrielle does not cry, standing tall and proud. She needs this job to support her 8-year-old orphan nephew. But now, she has to face hateful looks and rejection. Soon, a powerful decision will protect the truth. How will this amazing comeback happen? Who will really get kicked out of the mansion? Gabrielle Moore wakes up before the sun. Her small apartment in Riverhead smells like coffee and cold air. She checks on her nephew Elijah first. He is 8 years old. He lost his parents 2 years ago in a car crash. Since then, Gabrielle has been his whole world. She kisses his forehead and lets him sleep a little longer. Money is tight. The rent is due in 9 days. She has $312 in her account. Every dollar matters now. She works at the Cole estate in the Hamptons. It is one of the biggest houses on the coastline. Xavier Cole built his fortune from nothing. He started with one small tech company. Now he owns buildings across 3 states. People call him quiet and serious. His staff call him fair. Gabrielle has worked there for 14 months. She started as a general housekeeper. But her real gift is with a needle and thread. Nobody trained her formally. Her mother taught her everything. Before she died, her mother ran a small tailor shop in Queens. Gabrielle grew up folding fabric and threading needles at the kitchen table. She kept one thing from that shop. It is a silver thimble, worn smooth on one side. The engraving is almost gone now. It still says one word: faith. She wears it on a thin chain around her neck. Nobody at the estate knows its story. To them, it just looks old and cheap. To her, it means everything. Her mother used to say a needle can fix more than fabric. It can fix pride too. Gabrielle holds on to that thought every single day. She still remembers the smell of that old shop clearly. Chalk dust, hot iron, and coffee filled the air daily. Her mother worked at the same wooden table for 20 years straight. The wood had deep grooves worn down from constant measuring and cutting. On slow afternoons, her mother let her practice on scrap cloth. Small stitches first, she always said patiently. Speed comes later, once your hands understand truth. Her mother passed away from a sudden illness 6 years ago. The shop closed within months, unable to survive without her steady hands. Gabrielle kept only 3 things from that place afterward: the thimble, an old wooden spool, and a single photograph. Everything else got sold to cover final medical bills quietly. Her younger sister, Renee, took the loss even harder back then. Renee eventually married and had Elijah 2 years later. Life felt hopeful again, at least for a little while. Then a highway accident took both Renee and her husband suddenly. Gabrielle became Elijah's guardian almost overnight, with no warning at all. She promised her sister silently, standing at that quiet cemetery. She would keep Elijah safe, no matter what it cost her personally. That promise now guides every decision she makes daily. It guided her hands the night she repaired that torn silver gown. It guides her posture even now, ink still drying on her collar. Olivia Sinclair is Xavier's fiancée. She grew up around money her whole life. Her father owns a shipping company. Her mother sits on charity boards. Olivia is beautiful in a sharp, practiced way. She smiles for cameras easily. But something about Gabrielle bothers her deeply. Maybe it is the calm in Gabrielle's eyes. Maybe it is how the staff quietly respect her. 3 weeks before the party, something happens. Olivia rips the sleeve of her designer gown by accident. The gown costs $11,400. It is flown in from Milan for the engagement announcement. Olivia panics. The seamstress on call cannot fix it in time. Someone mentions that Gabrielle sews well. Gabrielle takes the gown into a quiet room. She studies the tear under a small lamp. Her fingers move fast and steady. Within 2 hours, the sleeve looks perfect again. Even the original designer would not notice a repair. Olivia says nothing kind about it. She just takes the dress back, without a word. But word travels through the house. The butler, a tall man named Desmond, tells Xavier about it. Xavier does not say much. He simply nods and remembers. That single moment plants a small seed. Olivia feels it too, and she does not like it. From that day, Olivia watches Gabrielle closely. She starts giving her extra tasks. She corrects her tone in front of other staff. She calls her the help instead of her name. Gabrielle stays quiet through all of it. She needs this job. Elijah needs stability. She cannot afford pride right now. The night of the engagement party arrives fast. White tints rise across the back lawn. Caterers set silver trays along long tables. String lights hang between old oak trees. The smell of roasted garlic mixes with salt air from the ocean. Somewhere near the kitchen, candle wax and champagne blend together. A soft breeze carries all of it across the yard. 200 guests fill the property by 8 o'clock. Diamonds catch the light from paper lanterns. Laughter rises and falls like waves. Waiters move quickly, balancing trays above their heads. Every glass gets refilled before it empties. Gabrielle works near the dessert table tonight. Her job is simple. Stay near the pastries and keep them fresh. The tables display towers of small pastries, arranged in careful rows. Sugar dust settles lightly over trays of tiny cakes. Somewhere near the dance floor, a violin warms up softly. Its thin, wandering notes drift beneath the louder chatter of guests. Beneath the music, ice machines hum steadily from behind the bar tent. A soft mechanical click sounds every few seconds from the nearby string lights. Their small transformer box works quietly in the grass below. Nobody notices these small sounds except Gabrielle, trained to notice details. She learned that habit from years of careful, focused sewing work. Tonight, this same attention to detail keeps her steady and calm. She rearranges a tray of lemon tarts with practiced, gentle hands. Somewhere behind her, footsteps approach, heels clicking sharply against the stone path. She wears a plain black uniform. No jewelry, except the thimble hidden under her collar. Her shoes are old but polished. She stands with quiet confidence, hands folded in front of her. Olivia arrives in a shimmering silver gown. It catches every light around her. She smiles wide for the photographers near the entrance. But behind that smile, something feels off tonight. Earlier, she overheard two guests praising the dessert display. They asked who arranged it so beautifully. The answer was Gabrielle. Small compliments like that build up inside Olivia. They feel like tiny cracks in her confidence. Near the kitchen tent, Priya arranges champagne flutes into careful rows. She has worked events like this for almost 2 years now. Priya grew up nearby, in a small house past the marina. Her father fixes boats for wealthy families along the coast. She understands exactly what it feels like to be looked past quietly. That shared understanding is part of why she likes Gabrielle so much. You should charge extra for miracles, Priya jokes, nodding toward the dessert table. Gabrielle smiles faintly, arranging small pastries into neat lines. It's just fabric and thread, she replies modestly. Anyone can learn it with enough patience. Priya shakes her head, unconvinced by that modest answer. Not like you do it, she says honestly. Nearby, a small group of guests laughs loudly at something unheard. Their laughter drifts across the lawn, mixing with soft music playing. Somewhere, ice shifts inside a large silver bucket near the bar. The night feels calm for now, almost peaceful in its rhythm. Neither woman knows how quickly that calm will break apart. By 9:30, champagne flows freely. Olivia's mood grows sharper with every glass. She walks past the dessert table and stops. A jar sits there, filled with liquid silver ink for the calligraphy station nearby. Guests were supposed to sign a wish card for the couple. Olivia picks up the jar without thinking clearly. She turns toward Gabrielle. Her voice rises loud enough for nearby guests to hear. You think you're special because you can sew, she says. You're still just the help. Gabrielle stays still. She does not answer back. That silence seems to make Olivia angrier. Her hand tightens around the jar. In one sharp motion, she throws it forward. Liquid silver ink splashes across Gabrielle's face and chest. Gasps ripple through the crowd instantly. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Someone drops a glass near the bar. Gabrielle stands frozen for 1 second. Ink drips down her cheek slowly. It stains her collar and sleeves completely. The whole tent goes quiet, except for the wind moving through the tent fabric. Somewhere, a generator hums low behind the kitchen tent. Olivia straightens her dress and lifts her chin. This is what happens when you forget your place she says. A few guests whisper behind raised hands. Others simply stare, unsure what to do. Gabrielle wipes ink from her eyes slowly. Her hands do not shake. Her jaw stays tight, muscles pulled firm beneath her skin. She thinks of Elijah asleep at home. She thinks of rent due in 9 days. She swallows hard and stands taller instead of smaller. For a moment, everything around her feels strangely distant and slow. The music seems to fade beneath the sound of her own heartbeat. Ink drips steadily from her chin onto the grass below. She notices the small, cold feeling of liquid sliding down her neck. Nobody moves to help her at first, frozen by shock and hesitation. Even the violin player pauses mid-note, while hovering above the strings. The silence stretches longer than it should for such a small moment. Then, quietly, Gabrielle straightens her shoulders and lifts her chin slightly. Whatever happens next, she decides she will not collapse tonight. "I'm sorry for the mess," Gabrielle says quietly. "I'll clean it up." Olivia scoffs loudly enough for others to hear. "Clean yourself up first. You're an embarrassment." Desmond the butler moves forward quickly, his face tight with concern. He offers Gabrielle a clean towel from a nearby cart. She takes it and presses it gently to her face. Ink stains the white fabric instantly. Olivia is not finished yet. She turns to the small crowd gathering nearby. "This is exactly why staff need boundaries," she announces. "I was simply protecting the integrity of this event." She says it like a rule, not an excuse. In her mind, she believes it completely. She is not the villain in her own story. She sees herself as someone defending standards. That belief lets her feel justified, even proud. Nearby, a young waiter named Priya watches everything. Her hands tremble slightly around her serving tray. She has seen Olivia's temper before, but never this public, never this cruel. She looks toward the main house, hoping someone with authority notices soon. Gabrielle keeps her composure through humiliation. She does not raise her voice. She does not cry in front of strangers. But inside, her heart pounds hard against her ribs. Something in this moment will not be forgotten easily. Somewhere close by, a hidden camera keeps recording quietly. Nobody in the crowd even notices its small red light. That camera exists because of Xavier's own decision months earlier. He personally approved a full security upgrade around the property. Every path, every tent corner, every entrance holds a lens now. He trusts his security more than gossip. Tonight, that same system captures every second of what just happened. Olivia does not know about tonight's specific camera placement near the dessert tent. She assumes cameras only cover the main entrance and driveway. That single assumption will matter very soon. Months earlier, she actually sat beside Xavier during the security walkthrough meeting. She barely listened, scrolling through her phone during most of the discussion. Xavier explained every angle carefully, proud of the thorough coverage across the property. Olivia signed the approval documents, without reading a single page. She trusted her own confidence more than any careful review of details. That single signature, given without thought, now works against her completely. Nobody forced her hand that day. She simply assumed rules like that never applied to someone like her. Tonight, that same overlooked signature becomes the quiet trap closing around her. For now, she turns away from Gabrielle with a satisfied look. She waves toward a nearby security guard standing near the tent poles. "Escort her off the property," Olivia orders. Immediately. The guard hesitates for a moment, unsure who has real authority here. Olivia raises her voice again, sharper this time. "Did you not hear me? Do your job." Word about this scene doesn't stay quiet for long. Within minutes, 3 other staff members whisper about it near the kitchen tent. One texts a friend inside the house. Another simply stands frozen, unsure what comes next for Gabrielle. Meanwhile, deep inside the main house, Xavier Cole sits in his private study. He rarely attends the loud, crowded part of these parties directly. Tonight, he reviews quarterly reports before greeting guests personally later. A small monitor sits on his desk, connected to the estate's live camera feed. He glances toward the screen out of habit. What he sees stops him completely still. Ink splashes. Olivia's raised arm. Gabrielle's frozen expression. He leans forward slowly, jaw tightening as understanding sets in. He does not shout or rush outside immediately. Instead, He watches the full replay twice, carefully. His pulse quickens, though his face stays calm and unreadable. Years of business meetings taught him to control every visible reaction. He picks up his phone and calls Desmond directly. "Do not let anyone remove her from the property," Xavier says firmly. "I am coming out now." Desmond exhales in quiet relief. "Yes, sir. Right away." Back outside, the guard stands frozen between two orders. Olivia insists again, louder now, pointing toward the driveway. Gabrielle stands calmly, ink still drying against her skin. She does not argue or plead for her job. She simply waits, dignity intact despite the humiliation surrounding her. The tent grows unusually silent as guests sense something shifting. Somewhere behind the bar, ice clinks softly inside a metal bucket. A distant string quartet finishes one song and pauses before the next. That small pause feels enormous right now. Xavier walks out, through the back terrace doors moments later. His pace is steady, unhurried, almost eerily calm. Guests part slightly as he moves through the crowd toward the dessert tent. Olivia notices him first and straightens her posture instantly. "Xavier, thank goodness," she says quickly. "I was handling a small staff issue." He does not answer her right away. His eyes move first toward Gabrielle, taking in the ink stains and her steady posture. Something in his expression softens briefly before returning to careful neutrality. "Are you hurt?" he asks Gabrielle directly. She shakes her head slowly. "No, sir. Just ink." He nods once, then turns his attention fully toward Olivia. The guests around them go completely still, sensing the shift in energy. Somewhere near the tent's edge, a single string light flickers softly against the dark sky. "I saw everything on the camera feed," Xavier says calmly. "All of it." Olivia's confident expression falters for the first time tonight. Her fingers tighten slightly around the stem of her champagne glass. "Camera? I didn't realize there were cameras near the dessert tent." "I approved every camera on this property myself," Xavier replies. "I take security very seriously." The irony lands heavily across the silent crowd. Olivia's own dismissive attitude toward the help now works directly against her. Her carelessness in front of hidden lenses becomes undeniable evidence. She tries to recover quickly, forcing a small laugh. "It was just a joke. That went too far," she says. Staff sometimes need reminders about respect. Xavier's expression stays flat, unreadable, almost too calm. Reminders don't usually involve throwing ink at someone's face. A few guests shift uncomfortably, glancing between the couple. Someone near the bar sets down their drink very quietly. The distant hum of the generator suddenly feels loud in the silence. Olivia's voice rises slightly, defensive now. "You're really taking her side over mine? In front of everyone?" Xavier turns fully toward her, his voice steady and controlled. "I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing facts." For a long moment, nobody speaks at all. Even the string quartet stays paused, instruments resting against their laps. The only sound is wind moving softly through the white tent fabric above them. Olivia's face shifts through several emotions quickly. Confusion, anger, a flicker of fear beneath her practiced composure. Her cheeks flush red, then pale just as fast. Her hand grips her glass harder, knuckles turning almost white. "This is humiliating," she says sharply. "You're embarrassing me in front of my own engagement party." "You embarrassed yourself the moment you threw that ink," Xavier answers. Gabrielle stays quiet through the entire exchange. She does not gloat or smile at Olivia's discomfort. She simply stands, with the towel pressed gently against her collar, waiting patiently for whatever comes next. Xavier turns back toward her with a gentler tone. "Please, go get cleaned up. Desmond will show you somewhere private." "Thank you, sir," Gabrielle says softly, stepping away from the tent. As she walks toward the house, whispers follow her briefly before fading. Priya, the young waiter, offers her a small, encouraging smile in passing. Gabrielle nods back quietly, still holding the towel close. Inside a private bathroom near the east wing, Gabrielle finally allows herself one long breath. She looks into the mirror at the silver stains across her skin. Her hands tremble now, released from the tension she held outside. She touches the thimble hanging beneath her collar gently. She thinks of her mother's voice, calm and steady through memory. A needle fixes more than fabric, her mother used to say. It fixes pride too, if you let it heal slowly. Gabrielle closes her eyes for a moment, breathing evenly again. Whatever happens next, she reminds herself she did nothing wrong tonight. She washes the ink carefully from her face and neck. Slowly, her hand stops shaking completely. Outside, the party does not simply return to normal. Olivia stands frozen near the dessert tent, aware every guest now watches her closely. Her fiancé just publicly questioned her judgment in front of everyone she wanted to impress. She tries one more approach, softening her tone deliberately. Xavier, can we talk about this privately? Please? He shakes his head slowly. We will talk, but not the way you're hoping for. Something in his tone makes the meaning painfully clear. This is not a small disagreement to smooth over quietly. This moment marks a real turning point in their relationship. Desmond quietly organizes remaining event details, ensuring guests receive drinks and food normally. But an unmistakable tension lingers beneath the surface politeness. Several guests begin making early exits, sensing the evening has shifted permanently. Inside his study later, that night, Xavier reviews the footage once more. He watches Olivia's words and actions frame by frame carefully. Something about her tone bothers him deeply, beyond just the ink itself. She called Gabrielle just the help, dismissing her humanity entirely. He thinks about his own mother, who once cleaned houses to support him. Nobody treated her with real respect until his success changed things. That memory sharpens his resolve regarding tonight's events completely. Growing up in Baltimore, Xavier watched his mother leave before dawn every morning. She cleaned 3 different houses across town, 6 days a week. Some employers barely looked at her, treating her like furniture instead of a person. One woman once made her eat lunch outside on the porch steps. His mother never complained about it, within his hearing. She simply came home, made dinner, and helped him with homework nightly. Respect isn't something you wait for, she told him once. You give it first, and hope the world catches up eventually. He built his entire company culture around that single lesson years later. Every employee, from janitor to executive, receives the same basic courtesy. Tonight's events cut deeper than simple embarrassment at a party. They reminded him exactly why that rule exists in the first place. He calls his lawyer the next morning, requesting a full review of Olivia's conduct clauses within their prenuptial agreement. Certain behavior, especially publicly humiliating staff, triggers specific consequences they had outlined together. Olivia had once agreed to those terms confidently, assuming she would never need them. Meanwhile, news of the incident spreads quickly through smaller social circles. A guest recorded part of the confrontation on their phone discreetly. Within 2 days, a blurry video circulates among mutual friends online. Comments beneath it grow increasingly critical of Olivia's behavior. Reporters covering high society events start asking quiet questions. Olivia's own publicist calls her, worried about brewing negative attention. This story could get messy fast, the publicist warns her directly. You need to apologize publicly before it grows bigger. Olivia refuses at first, insisting she did nothing seriously wrong. She's just staff. Olivia repeats stubbornly during the call. People are overreacting to a small moment. Her publicist sighs audibly through the phone. A small moment caught on camera isn't small anymore. Inside the Cole estate, staff members react differently to the unfolding news. Some feel nervous, worried the scandal might cost them their jobs somehow. Others feel a quiet satisfaction, tired of years watching Olivia's careless behavior. Desmond keeps everyone focused, reminding them their work still matters regardless of gossip. Priya checks on Gabrielle daily during this uncertain stretch of days. She brings coffee some mornings, just to keep her company briefly. People are talking about you, Priya mentions carefully one afternoon. Not in a bad way, though. People admire how calm you stayed. Gabrielle shrugs gently, still uncomfortable with sudden attention. I just didn't want Elijah to see me broken, she admits quietly. He's already lost enough people in his life. Priya nods, understanding completely without needing further explanation. Loyalty like that, she thinks, deserves better treatment than what Gabrielle received. Word of quiet strength spreads faster sometimes than word of cruelty ever could. 3 days after the party, Xavier calls Gabrielle into his study. She arrives nervous, unsure why he specifically requested her presence. He gestures toward a chair, offering her tea before speaking. "I want to apologize personally for what happened," he says firmly. "That should never have happened in my home." Gabrielle shakes her head gently. "You don't need to apologize, sir. You didn't do it." "Still, it happened under my roof," he replies. "I take that seriously." He then asks about her repair work on Olivia's gown weeks earlier. Gabrielle explains her background modestly, mentioning her mother's small tailor shop. She describes learning every stitch and pattern from watching her mother work daily. Xavier listens closely, clearly impressed by her quiet skill and humility. "Your work saved that dress completely," he says. "Nobody else managed that repair successfully." He mentions that he almost called a professional service from Manhattan that same night. The wait time would have taken far too long before the announcement. Desmond suggested asking Gabrielle instead, remembering a comment from another housekeeper weeks earlier. That small recommendation quietly changed the entire course of events. "Funny how small decisions end up mattering the most," Xavier says thoughtfully. "It's just something I know how to do," Gabrielle says simply. He leans forward slightly, curious now about her larger story. She eventually mentions Elijah, her orphan nephew waiting at home. She explains why stability matters so deeply to her right now. Something shifts in Xavier's expression as he listens carefully. He recognizes real strength in her calm, steady honesty. Very few people speak this openly, without asking for anything in return. "I'd like to offer you something different," he says slowly. "Not just housekeeping duties anymore." He explains a new position within his company's growing fashion division. They recently acquired a small design house needing skilled tailoring leadership. Her natural talent, paired with proper training, could build something meaningful there. Gabrielle sits quietly for a moment, absorbing this sudden shift completely. "Why would you do this for me?" she asks honestly. "Because talent like yours shouldn't stay hidden," Xavier answers simply. "And because tonight reminded me what real character looks like." Meanwhile, Olivia's situation continues unraveling publicly and privately both. The engagement announcement, once celebrated widely, becomes a source of quiet scandal instead. Friends who once praised her elegance now distance themselves carefully. Xavier meets with her one final time inside his study. The conversation stays calm, but firm and completely final. "I can't move forward with someone who treats people this way," he says clearly. Olivia's composure finally breaks completely during this conversation. Her voice cracks, tears forming despite her attempts to stay controlled. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she admits quietly. "But it did," Xavier replies, without anger, just simple honesty. "And I can't unsee who you really are now." She tries one last defense, voice shaking noticeably now. "If I had known the cameras were recording everything, I would have." "You would have hidden it better," Xavier interrupts gently. "Not treated her better." Olivia has no real answer to that observation. She sits in silence, finally understanding the depth of her mistake. Her engagement ends that same week, quietly confirmed through both families' representatives. Word spreads through their social circle within days completely. Some friends stay loyal, but many quietly distance themselves further. Olivia moves back to her family's Connecticut estate temporarily afterward. She loses her engagement, her public image, and her circle's respect simultaneously. Reports later mention her joining a charity board specifically focused on labor rights. Whether that choice comes from genuine reflection remains uncertain to outsiders. Late one evening, alone in her family's Connecticut house, Olivia replays that night constantly. She remembers Gabrielle's calm face, the silence that followed her cruel words. For the first time, she admits privately that fear drove her actions. Fear of being outshined by someone she considered beneath her. Her mother tells her once that pride often hides smaller, quieter fears underneath. Olivia does not fully accept that idea yet, though it lingers. Some nights, she stares at old photographs from the engagement party silently. She wonders what her life might look like now had she simply apologized first. Rebuilding trust, she learns slowly, takes far longer than losing it ever did. Sometimes, at family dinners, her mother gently asks if she has called anyone from the estate. Olivia always changes the subject quickly, uncomfortable with the reminder. Healing, she is discovering, starts with honesty she still struggles to offer. Back at the Cole estate, changes happen relatively quickly for Gabrielle. She begins training within the newly acquired design house downtown. Her mentor there recognizes her raw talent within the very first week. Elijah adjusts well to their improved circumstances over following months. Gabrielle moves them into a modest but comfortable home nearby. She still wears her mother's thimble every single day, unchanged by success. One afternoon, Xavier visits the design house unannounced during a quiet moment. He watches Gabrielle instructing two younger trainees with patient confidence. She notices him near the doorway and smiles warmly, genuinely pleased. "You look happy here," he observes simply. "I finally feel useful," she admits honestly. "Not invisible anymore." He nods, understanding that feeling more than she might realize. "You were never invisible," he says quietly, "just unseen by the wrong people." She laughs softly at that, shaking her head at his careful phrasing. "That sounds like something you practice saying," she teases gently. He smiles, admitting he may have thought about it once or twice. For the first time since the party, the moment feels light and easy. Months later, the design house launches its first small collection publicly. Gabrielle leads the final showcase, nervous but steady throughout the event. Elijah sits in the front row, proudly watching his aunt shine. Critics praise the collection's quiet elegance and thoughtful craftsmanship specifically. One reviewer mentions a subtle detail stitched into every hem discreetly. It's a tiny silver thread, shaped like a small thimble. Nobody outside her close circle understands its true meaning. For Gabrielle, it represents everything she survived and overcame. It honors her mother's memory within every single piece she creates. Gabrielle also starts a small mentorship program at the design house quietly. She trains young workers from difficult backgrounds, much like her own past. Some are single parents. Others are recent immigrants learning a brand new trade. She teaches them the same lesson her mother once taught her. "Small stitches first," she tells them patiently, echoing words from years ago. "Speed comes later, once your hands understand truth." Priya eventually joins the program too, switching careers after years of serving drinks. She discovers a genuine talent for pattern cutting within just a few months. Gabrielle watches her grow with quiet pride, remembering their friendship's difficult beginning. Word about the mentorship spreads through nearby community centers steadily. Local newspapers feature a short piece about the growing program eventually. Nobody mentions ink or engagement parties or old humiliation from that single night. They simply mention opportunity, patience, and quiet dignity finally recognized properly. Gabrielle keeps a small framed photo on her office desk now. It shows her mother's old shop, faded but still clearly visible. Beside it sits a drawing Elijah made of the three of them together. Some mornings, she looks at both before opening the studio doors. Xavier attends the showcase quietly, standing near the back entrance. He watches the audience applaud genuinely, moved by real craftsmanship finally. Somewhere behind him, Desmond smiles, remembering that difficult night months earlier. "She earned every bit of this," Desmond says softly. "She always had it," Xavier replies. "She just needed someone to truly look." A few weeks earlier, Elijah stood in front of his own third-grade class. His teacher asked everyone to share something proud about their family. Most kids talked about vacations or new video games happily. Elijah talked about his aunt instead, voice steady and clear. "My aunt makes clothes for people," he said simply. "She got mean to once, but she never got mean back." His teacher later told Gabrielle that story during a parent meeting. Gabrielle cried quietly in her car afterward, overwhelmed by his simple words. "Children notice more than adults often realize," she thought to herself. "They notice character long before they understand the word itself." She wrote his exact words down on a small card that night. She keeps it tucked beside the thimble in her jewelry box now. Some days, when work feels overwhelming, she reads it again quietly. Later that evening, Gabrielle stands outside the venue, breathing in cool night air. Elijah runs up excitedly, holding a small program from the show. Everyone loved it, Aunt Gabrielle, he says happily. She hugs him close, feeling gratitude settle deeply within her chest. Whatever comes next, she knows they finally have real stability. The past year taught her something important about dignity under pressure. Standing tall costs nothing, even when everything else feels uncertain. Sometimes, quiet strength speaks louder than any single loud reaction ever could. And sometimes, the truth simply needs enough time to surface completely on its own. Gabrielle touches her thimble one final time, that night, smiling softly to herself. Faith, the engraving still whispers quietly against her skin. It carried her, through humiliation, uncertainty, and finally, into something better entirely. The Hamptons mansion still hosts parties every summer, filled with silk dresses and careful smiles. But everyone who worked there, that night remembers one simple truth clearly. Real value was never about expensive jars of ink or shimmering gowns at all. It was always about the quiet dignity of someone who refused to shrink under pressure. People often ask Gabrielle later how she stayed so calm that night. She always gives the same simple answer, without hesitation or drama. I had someone waiting for me at home, she says. Falling apart wasn't an option I could afford. That answer says more about her character than any single dramatic speech could. Strength, she learned, rarely looks loud or angry from the outside. Sometimes it looks like steady hands, a quiet voice, and an old silver thimble. Sometimes it simply looks like standing still, waiting for the truth to arrive.